While the rest of the world argued stablecoins, Ethereum gas fees, and Bitcoin ETFs, China has been quietly playing four-dimensional chess. What if China was planning the largest power shift in financial history, not merely to replace the US currency, but to create an entirely new digital monetary empire behind these boisterous arguments? And what if XRP, the cryptocurrency that many people disregard, was the link that powered everything? This is not a conspiracy theory, let's be clear. This strategic hypothesis is founded on global monetary movements, leaked papers, digital currency trends, and Ripple's stealthy yet assertive Asian expansion. The digital yuan, also known as China's central bank digital currency or CBDC, is viewed by the international community as a domestic endeavor, a surveillance tool, and a means of control maintenance by the Chinese Communist Party. However, what if it goes beyond that? What if the first move in a far larger game is the digital yuan? One that culminates in a new global reserve system linked by XRP as a bridge asset. This is the assertion that has been making the rounds in the cryptocurrency community due to purported technical documents that outline a proposed CBDC interoperability model from the People's Bank of China, or PBOC, China's central bank. The XRP ledger is at the core of that approach. However, how might this occur? Let's begin with the fundamentals. Perhaps the world's most sophisticated central bank digital currency is China's ECN, or digital yuan. More than 200 million wallets currently have it. Real-world situations such as retail transactions and cross-border trade with nations like Thailand and the UAE have been used to test it. However, there is a catastrophic flaw in the digital yuan. It is not intended for worldwide interoperability, but rather for centralized domestic management. China's CBDC functions within a strictly closed, sovereignly regulated ecosystem, whereas other countries talk of open-source frameworks and blockchain cooperation. Although Beijing benefits greatly from this approach, foreign adoption is severely constrained. XRP is useful in this situation. Fiat money was never intended to be replaced by XRP. Rather, it was constructed to bridge it, enabling the safe and quick settlement and transfer of any currency anywhere. It is a layer of liquidity, not just a cryptocurrency. And because of its lightning-fast 3 to 5 second settlements, high throughput, and nearly zero cost, XRP is well suited for cross-border interoperability, exactly what China lacks. Imagine now that you are seated within the People's Bank of China. You have created the most sophisticated digital currency in the world, but it is confined to your own financial boundaries. As you are aware, SWIFT is still dominated by the US dollar system. You are aware that the dollar is being used as a weapon through reserve dominance, dollar clearing, and sanctions. You wish to skip that step. The US-dominated financial system is something you wish to avoid at all costs. You want control though. Free commerce in the digital yuan is not what you want. You need a bridge or connection to enable your CBDC to communicate with other national currencies without depending on US middlemen, but you want rules, auditability, and faith in Bitcoin. You look about the terrain. Ethereum is excessively costly and slow. Bitcoin fluctuates too much. Stablecoins are private networks governed by US law are unknown, but XRP, more than 300 financial institutions worldwide currently use XRP, which was created for. It can be programmed with rules for cross-border use and has liquidity pools in all major currencies. The theory enters the picture here. Alleged PBOC documents started making the rounds on Chinese forums in the middle of 2025. These technical white papers, which have been translated by different crypto experts, seem to describe a bridge asset with native liquidity across fiat pairs employing a permissioned public blockchain platform as an interoperability model. Although XRP wasn't mentioned specifically in every part, recognized Ripple net workflows were incorporated in a few of the illustrations. A tri-party CBDC transaction with a central ledger layer that mirrored the XRP ledger structure was even shown in one chart. Are these documents phony? Of course, they have never been verified. However, the more important question is whether they make sense. We must examine how China plays the game in order to comprehend that. China doesn't reveal its plans, it does it. The Belt and Road Initiative, a vast commerce and infrastructure project spanning Asia to Europe and Africa, was started back in 2013. By 2020, they were using yuan to write loan contracts. They started experimenting with cross-border digital currency in 2021, alongside other central banks in Asia. Then in 2022, they and the Bank for International Settlements introduced Enbridge, a multi-CBDC testbed. The strategy moves forward in silence each year. What better instrument is there than XRP if the next step in this plan is to connect the digital yuan to international trade without utilizing SWIFT or the dollar? Let's examine the figures. The total amount of money in circulation in China's economy, or the M2 money supply, is currently over $40 trillion. That is greater than the combined GDP of the US and the EU. XRP has a maximum supply of 100 billion tokens, so if even 5% of that value moves through XRP-based settlement rails over the course of the next 10 years, that's $2 trillion in cross-border flow annually. However, not all of them are now in use. Assume the market has 50 billion available. Accordingly, XRP would have to sustain $2 trillion in settlements annually, or more than $5.4 billion every day. The demand for liquidity would increase dramatically if XRP were to take over as the global bridge for China's CBDC, with other CBDCs joining mBridge. The supply of XRP is limited, in contrast to fiat systems where new currency can simply be created. Price must therefore increase to reflect utility, and the more value that moves through the system, the higher the price. Imagine for a second that XRP is held as reserve by state-owned businesses and central banks, as infrastructure, not speculation. Similar to how nations used to hoard gold to support their currencies, they might do the same with XRP to support settlement flows. XRP becomes more than just an asset under that concept. It turns into digital infrastructure, a vital component of the world's financial system. In these circumstances, a $400,000 XRP is more than just clickbait, it's a mathematical calculation. And how might that planet appear? The US dollar progressively loses its reserve status, rather than all at once. SWIFT has been marginalized. Through a neutral bridge like XRPL, nations can trade bilaterally using digital currency. The ESDR is a digital currency basket created by the IMF, and XRP is a component of the exchange mechanism. For international trade, Ripple's on-demand liquidity becomes the norm. Retail investors who grasped the concept early and held XRP benefited from a financial system change never witnessed in modern history, and China gains global power without having to completely replace the currency. Let's take a moment now. This isn't a promise. There is no proof that XRP is included in China's strategy. Risks include rival technology, regulatory crackdowns, and resistance from nationalists. China might create its own bridge technology. Ripple might not be sufficient. The price of XRP might not move. But consider this. Are you in a position if even 10% of this scenario comes to pass? Crypto investors frequently follow NFT flips, altcoin pumps, and hype meme currencies. What matters more though is what goes on behind the scenes. There is no gambling by central banks. They are carefully and covertly preparing, and they are increasingly turning to pre-existing networks to find solutions to their issues. Banks across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and Africa have already cooperated with Ripple. Pilots of digital currency issued by central banks have been tried. They have participated in policy forums. They are included into the fundamental financial system. That is not a coincidence. What does this leave us with then? The United States seeks to preserve its hegemony in a financial Cold War by using the currency and its institutions. China intends to construct its own lines and completely bypass the current infrastructure. In the center are XRP and Ripple, which provide resources for both sides. This hypothesis is important because it raises the stakes, not because it promises a moonshot. Who controls the flow of money will be more important in the future than who possesses the most money. The bridges, the procedures, the trains. The next global reserve system might be a web-based, decentralized, digitally interoperable system rather than a single currency. And in that case, XRP only needs to be the bridge. It doesn't need to win the game. You already know that we're not only keeping an eye on the markets if you're still here. We are witnessing the evolution of money, which began with paper, progressed to plastic, then to digital, and is currently decentralized. The next link in that chain might be XRP. What will you do now? As China's has already been produced. We appreciate you taking the time to read this in-depth analysis of one of the most contentious and explosive financial theories in the cryptocurrency space. Whether you believe it or not, it is too significant to overlook the potential for China to employ XRP to expand its digital currency globally. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with your opinions if this content got you thinking or